Module 5 video, I chose to do a deep dive into glial cells and particularly astrocytes. So I found this very fascinating. I really enjoyed the video by Ninja Nerd. I thought it was very descriptive and it gave me a really good understanding. So first off, the astrocytes are only found in the central nervous system, meaning they're only found in the brain and the spinal cord. They have 5 main functions. The first function is they stimulate endothelial cells. So here's my little diagram right here. This is the astrocyte, and this is the blood-brain barrier in the brain. So it is a selective barrier, means it's like semi-permeable, meaning it lets some stuff in, but it doesn't want to let in proteins. It's allowed to let oxygen, it's allowed to let CO2, but it does not want to let in proteins. So the astrocytes basically stimulate the endothelial cells, which makes more tight junctions, which helps make the blood-brain barrier more selective, making it stronger basically, and reinforcing that it won't let in proteins, but it will let in oxygen, CO2, and other stuff like that. So that's the first function. The second function is it acts as a potassium buffer. So it mops up excess potassium so it doesn't mess up the action potential of neurons. So neurons have a basic action potential of potassium, and if there's too much potassium outside of the cell, then it can mess up basic neurological functions, and so the astrocytes come to the rescue and mop up excess potassium. The third thing that it does is it removes excess glutamate and other neurotransmitters. So if you're looking at my amazing diagram again, this is the astrocyte, and this is a glutamatergic neuron. And after action potential, a glutamate is made, and it comes over here and stimulates the GABAergic neuron. However, it needs to leave because it can't keep stimulating, so they need to recycle it back into the glutamatergic neuron. However, sometimes it becomes too saturated, and this is when the astrocyte comes in to the rescue once again. So it comes in, it takes up the glutamate, turns it into glutamine, and the glutamine goes in through this receptor back into the glutamatergic neuron to be converted into glutamates again when needed. Also, it can be transferred into the GABAergic neuron as well as glutamine too. The fourth function is it acts as a glycogen reserve for low ATP. So if a neuron has a low ATP, the astrocyte once again comes to the rescue, and so normally it uses So one reason why the neuron wouldn't have or has low ATP is because it doesn't have a lot of glucose, or there's not a lot of oxygen. So if there's not a lot of glucose, then there's low ATP, then the astrocyte is signaled to break down glycogen and make glucose, so the glucose can make lactate. So the glucose is broken down into pyruvate, and then the pyruvate into lactate, and then the astrocyte brings the lactate to the neuron, which is then converted into pyruvate, and then the pyruvate goes and makes more ATP. So that's interesting, to make more ATP. And the final thing is it increases function of synapses between neurons. There wasn't really much on that with the Ninja Nerd, but that was just the fifth function. So I found this interesting article on how it relates to Alzheimer's. So this is a study on how astrocytes impact Alzheimer's disease. And it's basically saying that when the astrocytes are not functioning properly, it can contribute to the early stages of Alzheimer's, which is just memory loss. And yeah, I really enjoyed this module. I found it very interesting, and I really enjoyed Ninja Nerd. I think he does a great job explaining stuff.